Introducing new PANADO Pediatric Syrup 5ml sachets. They're really convenient to pack and easy to use, so you're always prepared for pain and fever, anytime, anywhere.
Indeed, thank you very much, Zoe. Yes, we've been taking a deep dive into the diagnosis, the symptoms and treatment plans for colds and flus this winter season, and today is no different. And as Zoe has just said, we're focusing on headaches, which are usually associated with symptoms that adults experience, but it is not unusual for children to get headaches every now and then when they have a cold or a flu. And here to unpack headaches in children and the underlying causes is pediatrician and specialist Dr. Puleng Tlopo. Very good to have you here, Dr. Tlopo. How are you?
I am well, and you, Kat?
Fantastic. Looking fantastic as well on this Monday morning.
Thank you so
Ready to
much.
conquer the world.
I am.
All right, but let's talk about this because it's actually been something that I was saying to you earlier on. I heard it before, somebody saying that children shouldn't experience headaches. And so, first of all, is that true? Or can one expect for your child to experience a headache from time to time, given certain circumstances?
Okay, I'm so excited for this topic because it is such a, excuse the pun, headache for parents and healthcare workers. It is very, if you had to type headaches into Google, you would get such big things and big words. And so for me to be able to speak on this topic is really exciting. So when kids have colds and flus, we do expect them to have headaches.
Okay.
So it is a common thing, and what you're speaking to there is what the secondary headaches, so secondary causes of headaches, as opposed to the primary causes like migraines, tension headaches, and all the cluster headaches that is more common in adults. In kids, we tend to see more the secondary causes, which means there is an identifiable source, and most of the time it is colds and flus. Yeah.
So, at the first instance, when you're at home, because children struggle to express themselves or to articulate certain things, what are the telltale signs to know that your child is experiencing a headache, apart from the fact that if your child is old enough, they're able to say that my head is sore and they point to, let's say, a part of their anatomy that indicates as such?
Absolutely. You see, one of the things I went into pediatrics is that kids are so resilient. So in most instances, the smaller ones will still conceal the fact that they have headache and continue to play despite having the headache. But you can see when a child's struggling because then they tend to be a bit more tired, they tend to not eat, and in most of the time they have associated symptoms which will be a bit of a fever, a bit of a runny nose, a bit of a congested nose, and they will point to the head. So as if, you know, there's something going on in the head. Some of the kids will cry inconsolably. Then you know that something is really off, which the parents will complain and say, you know, my kid is not the same, they're not eating, they're not doing anything, they seem to be in pain. So in the smaller ones, unfortunately, it's very hard to kind of see, you kind of see that the child's off, but they can't really verbalize and say, I have a headache. So
to that extent, very important then to kind of, you know your child's character traits and notice those minute differences, right?
For sure, and the fact that they do conceal it, they will continue to play.
Because children prioritize play over everything, their own survival. The world could be ending, but it's more important to play the dragon game, Papa.
Yeah, for sure, but I mean, they do struggle and, you know, they'll be just down and out and they won't be themselves. So it's very difficult in the smaller ones, but certainly the bigger ones will tell you my head is sore or my nose is sore, or they'll just point to any part in the head. So you kind of have to know that.
Let's talk about the frequency of headaches and when you reach a point as a parent where you then need to consult a pediatrician as yourself or a general practitioner.
Yes. Okay, so we call them the red flags of headaches. So this is when I would drop whatever I'm doing and listen. I mean, I still do listen with colds and flus, but the red flags in headaches is what we really worry about, because it means from the time you telling me whether you're a parent or you're a healthcare provider calling me as a pediatrician, from the time you tell me the red flags, I literally need to be doing something about that headache. So going through the red flags, so we're looking at a child with headache that awakens them from sleep. We are looking at what we call an early morning headache. An early morning headache is a child who actually wakes up every morning with headaches. We're looking at altered mental status, so a child that's not themselves. We're looking at abnormal movements, we're looking at clumsiness, we're looking at a child who has, the teachers complain that deterioration at school, we're looking at a child who has nausea and vomiting. So if you have a bit of a cold, you can have nausea and you can have vomiting, especially in kids who have viral illnesses.
Right.
But most of the time, if you have a headache and vomiting, it means there's pressure that's building up in the brain, and that's when you would have to say, okay, I have to take my child to a pediatrician.
Okay.
The other things, or the other category that we would worry about, is a child who has a pre-existing medical condition.
Right.
In this instance, we're talking about children with cardiac illnesses, children with bleeding disorders, children who have things like sickle cell disease, because we kind of know that those are predisposed to having abnormal intracranial things. So
yes.
we tend to worry a bit more, yeah.
And so then, how effective is paracetamol as a treatment for headaches? Or does it vary in scale depending on the severity?
For sure. So I think because paracetamol is the Beyonce of analgesia, yeah, absolutely. You'd give paracetamol to anything. So in pediatrics, that's our first line as far as treating any sort of pain.
Yes.
Because it's safe in the sense that the dosing of it, we give in children. In case you didn't know, it's milligram per kilogram. So
okay.
as opposed to adults where you just have one tablet, have two tablets.
Right, yes.
For kids, it's always per kilogram. So paracetamol is very good in the fact that you dose it per kilogram and then you give it at certain intervals in a day. It's very documented on the leaflet as well, if you read. So you always have to give according to because even though it's such a beautiful drug, no drug is without side effects.
Right,
so
read that particular one's
yes, and then you
leaflet.
give according to the age of the child. Yeah, and it's very effective. It works really well, yeah.
Well, Dr. Tlopo, thank you so much. Fantastic having you here and looking forward to many more interactions with you.
Absolutely.
You're doing great work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And just like that, we've learned something new. I certainly have learned something new for the day. And if you have, do share this information with your fellow parenting friends out there. And even if with your children's teachers, that might be a great help for them.
Absolutely.
In order to make their working environment a lot more easier to kind of function. As you can imagine, a teacher having to work with so many kids around them and how they deal with each and every one of them. And in that way, we help to keep everybody alert and everybody healthy.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Well done.
Being a parent can be challenging, but stepping out is when things get real complicated. That's why new PANADO Pediatric Syrup 5 ml sachets are here to make the job easier. They're really convenient to pack and easy to use, so you're always prepared for pain and fever, anytime, anywhere. PANADO, a dose of care.
Defeat your mucus monster, Mucofizz. Loosen mucus and phlegm for clearer airways. Brought to you by Pharmacodynamics.